All right. Well, first of all, welcome everybody to what is our first JBL live. I am super excited to be on this live with you and going to spend the next however long, I guess, spent talking with you and having conversations about the stop workload overload concept. So what does that mean in reality? We're going to get into that, but we're going to let people join gradually and enjoy just spending some time together. I know that there are people going to be dialing in and out, and if you can't stay for the whole thing, that's completely fine. If you haven't joined yet, but you want to join late, hopefully you join before the end. You know who you are. And reality is, this live is meant to be as interactive as humanly possible. Now, I want to mention that you can add questions in the chat and they will come through looking like this. So if you want to add questions, or we know we're not getting, according to the technical team, we know we're not getting questions from all the platforms, but certainly if you're on YouTube and I believe Facebook, it will work if you're on LinkedIn. Let's see, let's have an experiment. But the goal here is to answer any questions you might have around workload overload. Before we get started though, who am I? Why am I on this live? My name is Jimmy Burrows. I am the CEO and founder of a little business called JBL High Performance. Now, we work with teams and leaders all over the world to help them essentially stop feeling burned out, stop feeling overworked, and to adopt some new habits and some new practices that might help them to perform a bit better. Is get that high performance in a more effective and a better route. So I'm just going to check my audio there, and please do let me know in the chat. Say hi if you're on the live. Let me know you can hear me okay. It is always a technical wizardry to try and get this up and running. And if I just show you what it looks like behind the scenes here, we've got a chaotic mixture of devices, wires, and things going on. So there is a lot of technology involved in creating this live, and I want to make sure that it's working properly for you. So let us think about the idea of our challenges while waiting for some questions to come in. And the one of the often the challenges of high performance is the elastic band model which we've shared, but it's just headspace. Where do I find the time to do all the things that are going to really matter? How do I squeeze in working on the strategic stuff when I'm so bogged down in all of the detail and I'm down in the weeds, and maybe I'm supporting my team? Maybe my team is so overwhelmed that I feel like I've got to kind of roll my sleeves up and get in there as well. And this seems to be the common manager challenge, right? It's it's one of those circumstances where you feel like you have to, and you feel like everybody's expecting you to, but when you do, what you're actually doing is you're getting in the way of your own high performance. You're getting in the way of potentially bigger opportunities that might uncover themselves whilst you are down in the weeds doing the detail. And you can probably think of a scenario where you have done that, where you've actually been in a circumstance where suddenly things get, everything's going really smoothly, and then all of a sudden the brown stuff hits the whirly thing, and you end up feeling like, oh my God, I have to go and help my team, or I need to take this on because if I don't do it, then it won't get done, or it won't get done properly, and we can't afford to get this wrong. And that seems to be one of the challenges that most leaders seem to have, is they feel like there's this massive tension in their expectations on them that, yeah, I'm here to manage, but I'm also here to do the work. And to a point, I agree with you. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the key that we really struggle with, I think, at the moment is how do we balance that and allow ourselves the headspace and the time and the energy to do the important stuff, so we are not left just doing the detailed stuff, because it's the detailed stuff that needs to get done. Sure, that's what your team is for. And the people we work with, if you're on this call, hopefully you're a senior manager, or you're leading a function, or you're leading a group of managers. They're the people we tend to partner with best, because what we share and focus our energy on is moving people out of the doing into the leading. So whether you're a frontline manager, a team leader, a supervisor, at some point in your career, you're going to step up into that senior management role. And senior management is not about how much you personally do. It's how much you can create the conditions to get done. It's about leading people to be successful. It's about making sure that you've identified ways and opportunities to bring the best performance out of people. You learn as you go through the journey of high performance that it's not always plain sailing. It's not always easy. And so one of the things that we're going to try and share with you today is some answers to that, and some solutions to how you can work through it without going into all the detail. And to give you some context, we actually do have a masterclass coming up in a few weeks' time, which we ran last week. And the opportunity is there for you to be able to come along and do some proper learning. But we'll certainly make sure we share some value today, and that's my goal, is to add as much value. If you're online, please do drop a comment in the chat. Let me know you're here. Let me know you can hear me. It is a wonderful time to be able to spend to answer any questions that you might have around how do I work this out. Everything seems urgent. Everything seems important. I start my checklist every single day, and I just can't seem to get through it all. And I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know what to do more. I can't work any harder. I'm working nights, I'm working evenings, I'm working all the time. And for some reason, it's just not working. So that's what we want to try and answer for you today. We're going to talk about what high performance leadership is really about versus what most people do. Because most people, most managers are drug addicts. Now, I don't mean the booze. I don't mean the whatever narcotics you might have a tendency to imbibe or to indulge yourself in. We're not going to go there. What we're talking about is the achievement drug. Managers are driven by achievement. I need to get things done. And when I get things done, I get praise and I get rewarded and I get recognized for that. And it feels good. And if I'm running my own business, if I'm successful by doing lots, then my business grows. But the reality is, when you move into a senior management role, you are less about the doing. So that need for feeding your drug addiction with the rewards drug, which is called dopamine, suddenly kind of hits a brick wall. And what we tend to do is we keep doing things because we want to stay involved. We maybe feel like we're the best or the expert at it. Maybe we feel like we've got some challenges that only we can overcome because we've done it in the past and our team are too experienced, or they're too busy, or they don't really understand what's going on. And so we keep feeding our dopamine addiction. But the reality is, we actually are misunderstanding what we know about dopamine, because dopamine isn't the reward drug from having done something. It's the reward drug we get from the excitement about doing something. So what we want to encourage you to do as leaders is to think about that reward is, how do I get my people doing things and get excited about helping them to achieve? Because they'll get a little bit of reward from the thrill of the chase of the achieving, but also I'll get a little bit of a thrill from the just checking some technical terms here. So it looks like we're not going to get any comments or posts coming in from Instagram or LinkedIn. So if you want to drop a comment, if you want to say hi, please head over to YouTube or Facebook, jimmyburrows.com on Facebook, or Jimmy Burrows Leadership, sorry, on excuse me, sorry, JBR Performance on Facebook and on YouTube. You can find us there. We can take comments from there by the looks of it. For some reason, our system isn't supporting comments from the other two right now. Equally, hey, JP, how are you? Good to see you. So the key here really is getting away from our feeling like we need to do it, to get our dopamine fix to feeling like we need to support our people to do it to get the fix. But the challenge is we're also being fed by another drug, and that other drug is cortisol. Oh, that other drug is cortisol. This is our stress hormone. This is the hormone that's secreted when we're in fight or flight mode. And you can imagine if we're full of fight or flight, when we're worried about failure, when our boss comes to us and says, hey, you need to get this done, and if it's not done properly, then there's going to be consequences. Or perhaps we feel like this is a major client deal, this is a big sales meeting, this is a really important client, and I have to step in and do it. And it's that cortisol that is triggered when that moment comes. But the reality is, when we go into that scenario flooded with cortisol, actually we're significantly diminishing our own performance. We have a little piece of our brain called the amygdala. It sits at the back of our brain here, and it is responsible for engaging that hormone, that fight or flight hormone. And it's super useful if you're running away from lions or saber-toothed tigers. It's not so useful when you're doing complex executive work or senior management work. And one of the impacts of cortisol is it actually shuts down this part of your brain, which is called our prefrontal cortex, which is your executive functioning part of your brain. It's the super smart bit that solves all the great problems, that challenges all of the big decisions, and allows you to think more strategically. It helps you imagine better strategies and come up with better plans. It helps you be more creative. And the reality is, when we trigger that cortisol, that fear of failure, what we're actually doing is diminishing our ability to succeed effectively. So wouldn't it be amazing if we as senior managers could step back from the immediate problem, maintain our calm, keep this piece of our brain firing effectively, and move into a world where we say to our team, okay, team, let's sit down and do this together. Let's solve this problem together. And if they're too overwhelmed to deal with it because they've got too many other things on, then having the presence of mind to say, okay, team, it looks like we've got too many things on. Let's solve that first before we solve this. Or we need to solve this today, but tomorrow, let's definitely look at this. And too many managers that we meet are so busy living day to day to day, just got to get through till 5 p.m. and then I can start my work, that they never stop to think about how do we change the conditions of the job that we're actually working in. And when we do workshops and coaching sessions with leaders and teams, what we often say is actually every senior manager has two jobs. The first job is doing the job. The second job is making the job better for everybody around them. And so most managers, most senior managers, they miss that because they're so embroiled in the hamster wheel of delivery, getting through from 9 till 5 or 7 till 7 or whatever hours you work, that they never get this chance to do the really meaningful stuff. So we'll talk about what that looks like a little bit later. Just a reminder again, hey, good to see people coming onto the live. Really exciting to have you joining us. And probably the biggest miscomprehension of all of the things we're talking about here is, if you're working so hard to achieve success, is it actually the hard work that's holding you back? If you had that presence of mind, if you were able to step back slightly, would that allow you to do a better job? So maybe it's the hard work that's actually causing a lot of these problems that you're struggling with. Maybe it's the doing that's stopping you thinking really effectively. Hey, Paul, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Just gonna fix that up. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Lovely to have you on the live. So we need to think about it like this. We've got to change our perspectives. We've got to change our mindsets about leadership. And I mentioned the idea of when you move from manager to senior manager, the job changes. And I want you to think of it like a little leadership backpack. When you get promoted from individual contributor to team leader, supervisor, or you're managing people for the first time, whatever level of the business you're at, maybe you started your own business and you took some people on, you're a manager for the first time. And you might go on a management training course and they give you some skills and some tools and some ideas. And gradually you pick up those skills and tools and ideas and you start to refine them and make them your own, and you practice them and you get better at using them, and they stay in your backpack for the next 10, 15, 20 years, until maybe your business grows or you're promoted again to lead other managers or other leaders. And it's at that point we need to stop. I can tell you a story. When I was in the military many, many moons ago, we equipment waiting for us. That equipment would be things like extra high dosage rations, extra high calorie rations, or it might be oxygen if we were going above the oxygen zone. I personally never went there, but some of the team did. And so what we do is we need to make space for those new things that we were going to carry, and we needed to empty out the things that had got us from the minibus to base camp that we didn't need to take to the summit. And so that would be the last night before we summited. Would be empty the backpack, turn it upside down, shake it out, get rid of the things we didn't need anymore, keep the things we did need, and put the new equipment that we might need to get to the summit. Extra ropes, extra safety gear, but the heavy things like change of clothes and spare boots and all those things, we didn't need to take those with us. It was a rapid dash for the summit. And so the key thing here to think about is your career is much the same. You've gone on your management course, you've started to fill your backpack with loads of loads of management skills and tools and frameworks. But when you move into that senior management role, managing director, GM, CEO, divisional chief, SVP, whatever it is that your job title is, you've got to consciously stop and empty your backpack out and get rid of the things you don't need anymore. You might not need a real focus on KPIs. You might not need driving people. There are a number of other things you might not need. It's up to you to make the decisions on what do I need to keep and what can I get rid of. And then we start to accrue some leadership skills. And the leadership skills that we share are the ones that are going to be in the masterclass that's coming up in a couple of weeks. It's the three-pointed framework that allows us to choose where we put our effort, to choose how we work. Now, some questions. So a question from Paul. Any tips on how to prioritize? It seems like everything on my list is important and urgent. We talked about this, yeah. And I hear this from a lot of people as well. Yeah, great question, Paul. Prioritizing is I think it's an art. The tool we use is the PVC model. And it's what we teach in the masterclass. And so if you're interested, I do recommend you come along and sign up for that. And we'll be sharing more information fairly soon. But the key here is you've got to start with understanding all of the tasks you're doing, the purpose of them. You need to understand what's the reason I'm doing this and why do I need to be involved? Because too often something comes in and it goes on your desk and you're like, I've got to do that, and I'll put it on my list, and I just get a longer list. So we need to first of all go, well, why is this important and why have I got to do it? When we've clarified that, and often people aren't clear, so that's why we say you need to clear it. And certainly if you're working in a team of people, understanding and helping them understand the purpose of what the reason for doing this is might help them prioritize better. The second piece is the value or the impact that that task might have. So for example, you might have a task that if you spend a couple of hours doing this, it unlocks 20 hours a week down the track. Or this particular thing will stop you losing $1 million, or this particular thing will help you gain $1 million. You need to try and quantify the value or the impact of having got that task done. Because then you can look at your tasks side by side And you can say, well, the value of this task is I'll free up an hour a week. The value of this task is I'll free up 20 hours a week. Or it might be that you're saying, I've got these 3 things to choose from and I can't get everything done. So which one has got the biggest value or impact to the business? And you must be able to rank them, and if you can't rank them, then you're not thinking hard enough about it. And that's when most leaders who we've worked with, they get that far. The third piece is where the magic happens, is the capacity. Do I have the capacity to do this one as well as everything else I'm doing? And the answer, as we said earlier, is not working longer. It's not working harder. It's not doing more and more and more. It's going, well, I've got this many hours a week to spend, however many you're comfortable. Let's say 40 for the sake of argument, but we know some people work 60, 70, 100, whatever. That's your choice. But let's say you've got 40 hours a week. You've got 40 hours to solve the task you've got available. If we look at the purpose of us doing this, why is this important and why is it important for me to do it? Then we've looked at the value and we go, okay, well, these are the 3 most valuable things I need to do. Then I go, well, according to my capacity, this is where I need to slot them in. Now, if my capacity is already spent, I've got some choices to make. I either need to stop doing something that I'm already doing, or slow it down, or give it to somebody else. Or perhaps I might need to think carefully about, is this thing that I've attributed high value, is it higher value than the things I'm already doing? And maybe I can do a switch. Or maybe I say, it's not higher value than all the things I'm doing, so I'm going to pause that one and wait, and I'll slot it in on Wednesday or next Monday. And that means I need to go back and have a conversation with the person who's given me that task, or the situation that's offered me that task, and have an honest conversation about capacity. And I think most of us fear those conversations. We fear prioritizing because we think if we don't act on it today, we'll lose the deal, we'll lose the customer, we'll lose the client. Do you think that customer or client would rather you delivered it well and effectively, or rushed it and gave them a half-assed effort? What we see is that people prefer quality on time. So they want the best outcome. And normally, not always, but normally there's a little bit of wiggle room in the deadline. So if you say, like, I can't get it to you today, I'll get it to you tomorrow, I can have this with you by Monday, or when is your drop dead date? That helps you manage your capacity more effectively. What we tend to get drawn into, and it gets even worse when you're the hamster on the wheel, what we tend to get drawn into is seeing everything as important and seeing everything as urgent. And that can be a real challenge for us. Great question. Thank you, Paul. So we've thought about emptying our backpack out. We've thought about how we can start to let go of some of our management tendencies, the focus on delivery, the focus on being involved, the focus on leading everything from the front, or being sleeves rolled up and in the mix. We've talked about how we change that now for our leadership skills of stepping back and starting to think a little bit more strategically about what we're doing. And that strategically is, what's the purpose of this? What's the value of this? Do we have the capacity for this? And it's a whole mindset shift. It's a whole mindset shift where we're trying to show you a new way of working that will be unfamiliar, and your dopamine addiction is going to be demanding that you achieve something, so people recognize you for doing a great job, or for you get that self-satisfaction from having done a great job. Equally, that fear of dropping the ball, it falling over, often drives us to action as well. And so it's having the resilience, the courage to say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to step in and try and be a superhero. What I'm going to do is support the team through this. And so that time where you might work late on doing the work, you might be able to shuffle your schedule around a little bit and get the key people together tomorrow morning or into this afternoon and have a meeting and say, look, Fred, Sarah, I'd like for you to take the lead on this. I'd like for you to run with this. And I'm going to be here to support you through it. Because the benefit that has is, once Fred or Sarah is up to speed on doing this, they can take on that capability. And if you know your people well, you know that Fred or Sarah have a real aspiration to step into doing these types of things, then you're building their confidence and their capability to do this more frequently, and it gets it off your plate. It might be a one-time investment of energy to ask people to take something on and to hand something over. And you might need to invest a little bit of time and energy in teaching and supporting and coaching them to become expert. But they're going to be grateful you gave them some new challenge. People want challenges. You're going to be grateful that gradually this is coming off your plate. It might take, 3, 4, 5 sessions to get it off your plate, but it'll get done. And if your involvement will go down as their capability goes up. But that being off your plate gives you more headspace. Gives you more headspace. It might give you more headspace to think about what are all the value of all the other things we're doing? Are we involved in lots of trivia? Or are we doing pointless things that we just do because we've always done them? I haven't even thought about it. I just do them every week. Got so many examples of those. Or perhaps it'll free up some capacity for your boss to say, oh, look, Jimmy always seems so busy. He was always running around in meetings. And so I feel like I couldn't give him anything because he was always so overloaded. But now he seems to have got a little bit of capacity. And so Jimmy and I can have a conversation about whether he would like to take on something that I do that I need to hand off so I can get ready for the next thing. So the reality here is it's starting to shift our thinking. Again, welcome to those of you who are on the live stream. If you would like to interact, have a comment with us, please do head to YouTube or Facebook. For our technical reasons, we've got no commentary on Instagram or LinkedIn, unfortunately. So we've got multiple platforms running, multiple ways to be interactive. We'd love to have your highs, your comments, your hellos, and please do feel free to drop a question in the chat. So a question that's been passed over by WhatsApp, of all things. How can I identify and eliminate tasks that are not adding real value to my team's goals? That's a great question. Let me just pop that up on the screen. How can I identify and eliminate tasks that are not adding real value to my team's goals? I think we've kind of explained it in the PVC model, where we want to try and identify the tasks that are most valuable to what we're trying to achieve. And so it's very easy to get sucked into the trivia, as I mentioned. It's very easy to do the small things, the things that feel easy, the things that we like doing. When we're having that value and purpose assessment, we're starting to really think about what is it that we're doing that can be most valuable. Equally, as a leader, you need to be super conscious of what are your team's goals. Are they clear on them? Are you clear on them? Often we have a strategy, which is a document that we create at the start of a 3-year journey, and then we kind of pop it on the shelf, or it stays in a folder somewhere, and we don't use it. And people just get into the day-to-day, and they might lose focus or lose clarity on that strategy and the goals that have fallen out of that strategy. So 2 things: use the PVC model for sure, but equally try and make sure that you're revisiting what are the team's goals, and are your team really clear on them? Are they clear on the weekly goals, the monthly goals, the quarterly goals? How often are you talking about them? One of the great pieces of research that came from Gallup, which is an employee engagement agency, was that an awful lot of employees do not understand the strategy and the goals of their team or their business. But most managers think that their people do. And as we go down through a business, the clarity and the understanding gets less and less and less and less and less, to the point where when you get to the shop floor, often people have no idea about the strategy or the goals. They just turn up and do their job. So if you want to eliminate tasks that are not adding real value to your team's goals, first of all, make sure that you're clarifying the team goals with the team. Then make sure you're having a conversation with the team to say, which of the things that we're doing aren't adding value right now? Which are the lowest value tasks? Which are the bottlenecks for us? Which are the ones that are holding us up and frustrating us that we can look at and get out of the way and solve? Because your team also have great knowledge of the business. Once they clearly understand the goals, they can help you to eliminate. Your job as a senior manager, again, is not to do all the thinking and not to do all of the doing. It's to create the conditions for your team to be successful. So if you're not involving your team in those discussions, then chances are you're kind of operating with your blinkers on, and maybe you're only reacting to the things that are close to you, that are in proximity to you, or seem important and urgent to you. and it's leaving the team just drifting, doing their own thing. And as I say, so many people, as you go down through a business, are just drifting. They're just turning up and doing what they've always done without any real clear idea of why they're doing it or the value it's adding. And when they get another thing, they just try and slot that into their task list. They're not clear. They're not super up to speed. That's a great question. Thank you for sending it through. Another question that's just come through on the LinkedIn messages this time. I'm going to drop them into the chat so you can see them here on the stream. Is for you control freaks out there. For the control freaks out there, I struggle with letting go of control and delegating. How do I build trust in my team's ability to handle important tasks? Wow. How many of us are control freaks? How many of us see, when we like to think that we enjoy delegating, and we like to think that we are, excellent at delegating. But the reality is, when the chips are down, most of us step in and say we do the Superman thing, we roll up our sleeves and we go in to save the day. And the reason we do that is because we don't trust in our team. We maybe don't trust their capability. Maybe we don't trust their capacity. Or perhaps it's because we haven't spent time getting to know them, to know who the best person is to hand that task to, because they've got hidden talents or they've got a desire to grow and learn in that skill. So what we end up with is a situation of, I better just get it done. I'll do it. And we struggle to let go. Equally, we're battling our dopamine addiction that we talked about earlier on, where we feel that unless we're doing it, it's not going to get done properly. And we really want to be seen to be doing things by our boss, by our stakeholders, by our shareholders, by our colleagues. Oh, wow, Jimmy's amazing. He really delivers great stuff. So we don't want to let go of those opportunities to shine. So the key piece to building trust with your team and allowing yourself to delegate is, first of all, knowing your people, having those conversations with them to understand what are your aspirations, where would you like to learn and grow, getting to know them as people. What are you into? What are your hidden skills and talents? So many people even in my team, people who are in my team, and I didn't know that they were an expert video editor, or I didn't know that they had a Google Analytics qualification. And until you start asking these things, you don't know. So get out there and start talking to your team. Adam Grant says 10 to 15 minutes for every employee every week. And talk to them as a person. Don't talk about the work in progress. Don't talk about all the objectives and goals that you've got going on. That's for team updates and whips. This is actually a personal connection. It could be over a coffee. It could be a walk. It could just be swinging by their desk. And it doesn't have to be 15 minutes in one slot. It could be 2 minutes 5 times a week. That'll give you 10 minutes of connection time. But get to know your people. That makes you seem more approachable, builds their trust in you, but also you start to understand and learn a little bit more about them, and builds a relationship, builds vulnerability, builds connection, which builds your trust. When we start to find those little similarities, oh, we're both into Thai food. Oh, we both love dogs. Oh, you're a wine collector. Whatever it is that they're into, that creates the hormone oxytocin, which is a connection drug. It helps us build trust. Once we've got that trust, then we feel more confident about going to somebody and saying, hey, can we work together on this? Or can I hand this over to you? Because often when we think of delegation and we think it's just like, oh, hey, Jimmy, can you please do this? Email sent. But the reality is, when we delegate, we want to do it really effectively. And that really effective delegation practice comes from making sure that we've done a proper handover. So explaining what it is that we're wanting them to take on. Demonstrating to them, hey, I want you to start accompanying me to sales meetings. I want you to come with me to the next sales meeting, and I'll show you how I do the meeting. And I'll show you all the pieces and the things I think about, and we'll talk about the questions that I ask and why I ask them. And then I want you to, next meeting, you'll come with me again, but you'll sit in the driving seat and you'll try and imitate what it is that we do. We'll maybe get together beforehand and we'll prep your questions. We'll maybe get together afterwards and we'll debrief. And then gradually we're going to practice that. So it might be that we'll do some mock sales meetings before and after the meetings to refine our tactics. Maybe we'll war game some meetings out. But by the end of 4, 5, maybe 6 sales meetings, you'll be super confident in running those sales meetings yourself. You'll have that capability. But also I'll trust that you're not going to drop the ball. I'll trust that you've got this, and I can take my attention away and start putting it onto something else, which frees up my headspace, frees up my capacity, frees up all those other things. So I hope that helps. If you struggle letting go of control, put your control into how you delegate really effectively. Put your energy into empowering and supporting and coaching that member of your team to step up. So you have confidence that they can do it, and they have confidence in your leadership to allow them to take it on. I hope that helps on that one. Again, please pop any questions in the chat, in Facebook, in YouTube. Would love to see them, or you can fire them through to me on WhatsApp if you know me. I would love to get them. Just going to check the LinkedIn chat again on a slightly separate platform. Give me 1 second. Oh, that's a nice question. How can I measure the impact of implementing the PVC model on my team's performance and well-being? Oh, no, sorry, apologies, that didn't work. Let's try that again. There we go. How can I measure the impact of implementing the PVC model on my team's performance and well-being? This is a great question. One of the greatest questions that you can start to ask yourself is, what percentage of my capacity do I think I'm operating at? And I had so many leaders when I talk to them and say, oh, what percentage of capacity are you operating at? And they say, oh, 100, 140, 180%, 200%. I'm just maxing out all the time. And my initial activity that we work through in coaching sessions is, well, what does 80% look like? So you're really good, you're working fine, and then you kind of hit the 80% capacity mark, and the wheels start to wobble, and you notice some changes in yourself. You start to see you think differently, you act differently, you behave differently, you speak differently, you feel differently. What does that look like when you're transitioning through that 80% zone? Write that down. They become your visual signals or your mental signals, and have it on a list in front of you, or have it in a checklist, or have it in your phone, have it accessible to you. And each day check in on that list and go, well, which of these am I hitting? Am I at the 80% mark, or am I below that? And then you meet up a week later and they go, I noticed I'm over it all the time. Okay, cool. So what was it that took you over it? Oh, there's too much of this, too much of that, just in meetings all day, no time to stop and think. Cool. So what decisions are you making that is causing that to happen? What are you choosing to do? Because we don't necessarily, we have control over how much we put into our day, how many hours we work, how long we stay. Yes, there is always your boss having the expectations on you if you've got a boss, or your shareholders, or people pushing you, clients asking you. But you choose to get yourself into that situation of putting your own well-being at risk, putting your own mental health at risk. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's not pretty. When we do this to ourselves, it can get pretty messy pretty quickly, and you can end up looking, very unhealthy. This is me in 2016, very unhealthy, because I kept on putting the job first. My well-being was in the toilet. I was drinking too much, I was eating too much, I was not looking after myself, would always just skip the gym or the hobbies or the walk that I knew I needed to do, but for whatever reason decided not to do. And gradually it caught up with me, 20 odd, thank you for getting rid of the comment, 20 odd kilos more on my little frame, and it wasn't good. So what I would start with is that 80% list. What is it looking like? And start to track how many days a week do you go over that 80%, so you're starting to max your capacity. Ask your team to start doing the same. So whether it's just what capacity percentage do you think you're at the moment? And if you hear people saying, I'm 100%, I'm 100%, I'm 100%, then you know that you've got a challenge to deal with. But maybe get them also doing the list. What does it look like? How many of those things are you consciously seeing? And what we see when people start using the PVC model is that the number of days a week that people feel completely overwhelmed starts to drop. on average, we're seeing around 6 hours per week start to get freed up to do more important, more meaningful things, which are less frustrating, less meaningless to people. They see the purpose in what they're doing. They feel like they're satisfied with doing their work and their engagement, and they feel like they're making a difference. It's around 6 hours a week. So what's that? About 15% of your week can be improved. And so maybe the way you're measuring it is how many days a week am I going over the 80%? How many times are my team going over the 80%? And how many hours am I working on meaningful things versus meetings and trivia and knickknacks and emails? How much time am I actually spending moving our strategic projects forward or the big goals? That's what we want to start to measure. It's the outcomes and the impacts and the effects of the work that we're doing, not just are we able to do more work? Because it's the just doing more work that ends up with you looking like 2016 version of Jimmy, the unhealthy, unhappy, miserable version of yourself. And so if you're feeling like maybe your team is struggling, start with the PVC model. If you on any platform, reach out to me, drop a comment, Playbook, and it either direct message me or put it in one of the posts that we've done, or put it even in this live feed. Just use the word playbook, and what I'll do is I'll send you a guide, a playbook for taking your team through the PVC activity, which will allow you to get a better handle on where are they sitting and how do we start to find those bottlenecks, to find those frustrations, to find who's overloaded and who's underloaded, to maybe think about what we can do differently in the team by having some conversations. It's got some conversation prompts. And for those of you who are in the TLDR zone, then we've got the one-page version of the playbook in the back of the playbook. So we want to make sure that that's available to all of you. We want to make sure that you are not the hamster on the wheel. And we want to make sure that you're able to step back and think about how you can help your team best to succeed. Now, I'm just going to get to one piece here. So why are we sharing all this? Well, we know this makes a difference to people. We've got 3 examples here of leaders who, when they came to us or when we started working with them and their teams, they were just completely overwhelmed, completely maxed out all the time. And these are some of the comments that have come back through the various chats that we've had. Nikki saying that this has been an absolute game changer for me. PVC is too simple. It is really simple, but so powerful. I just sit down each night, work through it. We reckon it takes, when you're starting, about 15 minutes to use PVC. When you're practiced, it's a 5-minute activity that can potentially gain you 6 hours back. So we're saying this is a good thing to do. I find myself more focused, not distracted by the trivia I used to end up being involved in all the time. And this is the thing, right? You get involved in trivia whether you realize it or not. But being conscious of it by using the PVC to reflect each night and plan your day, wow, game changer. Darnell, fantastic operator. He was overwhelmed, to say the least. But he was like, "How did I not know about this?" And then he was actually called into his boss's office and told, we've seen the change, and the change is great because it now allows us to consider you for the promotion, allows us to give you some more strategic, crunchy work to do because we can trust that you'll get it done, and that you're not running around being a manager, you're now being a GM. And that can be really hard, right? Moving from manager to GM or to SVP can be really challenging, and PVC helped Darnell make that transition really, really effectively. And then Carl, who's one of our characters, thank you, Carl, hope you're on the call. Things I got back after PVC: clarity of mind, time for me, my family, my kids, my life, and the ability to work out. Carl was a semi-pro athlete before he became a sales manager, and just using this framework that we'll be talking about in the upcoming masterclass is a game changer. So encourage you to be aware of what those the consequences are of working in the framework. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is a bit of a tease for something that's coming up towards the end of the year. So as I've mentioned, we did a masterclass last week. We're doing this Q&A session this week. And thank you for those of you who've asked the questions. And if you're listening on LinkedIn or Instagram and you want to ask a question, please either message me directly or hop into Facebook and YouTube and send it through. What we're going to do is that masterclass was very popular and we want to offer more people the option to access it. So we're going to give you the chance to join us in another masterclass on the same subject with even more value added in a week, 10 days time. We'll be sharing some dates and information about that. It's free to attend. By coming along to that masterclass, you get access to a whole heap of value. We're going to take you through the PVC model from start to finish. We'll share with you how it works. We'll share with you the immense difference it can make. We'll also give you access to the Team Playbook. So if you comment Playbook, you'll have it ahead of time, but you'll get access to Playbook. We're also going to give you access to a private podcast, free access to my book, Beat Burnout. You'll also get some tip sheets. So we've got a whole lot of value that we want to add to you. Equally, we also want to offer you the opportunity to become part of a really, really committed, impactful community. And that community is what we call the Global Leadership Mastermind. Now, we're only going to run this once this year. And the Global Leadership Mastermind is essentially a group of leaders who are utterly committed to being high performers and want to share their learning journey. They want to work together to achieve this greatness. They want to gain wisdom from each other. They want to ask questions of each other. They want to network. They want to build their professional network with high caliber individuals. And they want to do that in a really safe environment that allows them to ask the questions that they're too afraid to ask, maybe in their workplace or of the HR team, to get resources that maybe they don't know which one's the good one. So when you come along to the masterclass, we'll be telling you more about the mastermind. The mastermind is a 6 mastermind event. So 6 sessions that you'll come along to, 6 high impact topics to build your performance, access to an incredible library of resources, access to one-on-one time with me and my team, deep dive sessions where we'll work with you one-to-one on things that are really, really meaningful and matter to you. And most of all, access to this community of leaders who are just like you, who are struggling with the same things as you and want some help and are willing to do the work, go away, try some of the things that we're going to share with you in those masterminds, come back and share how they got on, and we can all learn a bit quicker. So if that's something of interest to you, drop me a comment, drop me a note, drop me an email, whatever you want to do, just saying masterclass. And we'll send you all the details so you can go online and book yourself in. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to pop in the chat for you a link so you can go there. Very simple. It's just jimmyburris.com/masterclass. Very easy. You can go online straight away and sign up for the next masterclass. You'll see that the date hasn't changed yet. The team are working really hard behind the scenes to get the updated page ready. This link will work. You can register now and we'll send you all the information you need to be able to join us. But the key thing is, what we want to share with you is a model that will allow you to change the way you perform, to share with you resources that will allow your team to perform better. And when your team performs better as a senior manager, you're seen to be a better leader, you're seen to be ready for the next thing, and more importantly, your headspaces start to free up. So I think that's enough for today. I think we've had some good questions. We've had some great attendance. Thank you so much for everybody who did join us. Obviously, we had some technical challenges along the way, but hey, that happens. It's all a learning experience, and I'm really pleased that we got to spend this time together. If you are keen to, say, come along and spend a bit more time learning a little bit more about what we do, jimmyburris.com/masterclass. Come along, be part of it. There's no obligation to buy anything. We're just going to share with you value and information about being a better leader, and you'll walk away with a whole heap of resources. And if it is valuable to you and you do want to continue, then you get access to the mastermind as well. Very confusing with masterclass and mastermind. I need to fix that. But essentially, we would love to have you join us and to be part of our community and our conversation. Thanks very much. Speak soon.